What's up? It's the Benchwarmers, and today we're going to be talking about the series preview for the Suns Nuggets matchup. Now, this is going to be a really interesting series because the Suns are not a normal playoff team, but they just came off of beating the Lakers, and they're going to be facing the Nuggets, who shocked the Clippers last year and just beat the Blazers. So there's a very good team without their second and fourth best players, arguably. However, we're going to be talking about three main points and then having our predictions for the series. So stick to the end for our predictions. It's going to be a very interesting series. However, our first point is going to be about the Ayton versus Jokic matchup. So a lot of people are talking about the growth of DeAndre Ayton this year and how he's been doing quite well in the playoffs. He handled his own and forced Drummond out of the lineup because he was playing so well. And only in like the latter few games he wasn't performing as well. And this is only going to be expanded because Ayton does well versus Jokic. And it's kind of surprising. Ayton kind of cancels out Jokic to an extent. Obviously, he can't cancel out the playmaking and stuff, but based on his defensive impact, which is obviously he's a better defender than Jokic, who isn't that great of a defender. Ayton had 22 and 11, 27 and 13, and 17 and 13 in the three games against Jokic in the regular season. Now, the Nuggets won the regular season series 2-1, but it still shows that Ayton can handle himself versus Jokic. It's based on whether he steps up sufficiently to hold Jokic to like 25 points per game as he did in the regular season and limit his shooting percentage and his passing ability, getting enough turnovers, blocks, etc. on Jokic. That could really shift the series in the Suns' favor. So if Ayton, a third-year player, can prove that he's worthy of that number one pick, or at least somewhat worthy against Jokic, then the Suns could have a really good time versus the Nuggets.
I think another important aspect is how the Nuggets have a lot of injuries and how Michael Porter Jr. will become increasingly important. So if you look at the Nuggets injuries, Jamal Murray, Will Barton, and PJ Dozier are all out, and they're all important offensive players. I think Murray averages around 20 points per game, Barton averages close to 15, and Dozier averages close to 10. So I think Jokic has a decent matchup against Ayton because he has the three-point shot ability and the playmaking abilities, but he can't carry the entire offense himself because, as Aki said, Ayton is a very good defensive player in the paint and just at guarding jump shots in general. So I think the Suns are going to have an easy time on defense because their defense is also really good. It was sixth in the league, and it was very, very good against the Lakers. But the Nuggets are fractured offensively with many injuries, which is why Michael Porter Jr. will have to step up. He averaged 19 points, 54% shooting, and 42% from the three during the last series, and he had similar stats during the regular season. So he's a very efficient player, and I think he'll just have to take more shots and make some more shots for himself. So he's gonna get guarded by Mikal Bridges or Jay Crowder, and those are two really good defenders, and they're obviously better than the defenders that he faced against the Blazers. But I think this series will definitely come down to whether or not Michael Porter Jr. can step up and become a key offensive player for the Nuggets.
I'm going to talk about something a bit different, and that's playmaking ability. So both of these teams are very, very good statistically in terms of assisting. They're both in the top six, basically like within 0.01 assists per game of each other. And they're also both very, very good defensive teams in the top eight. However, they do vary a lot in terms of their ability to defend playmaking. So basically, the Suns are near the top in assists allowed, or like I guess near the bottom. And on the other hand, the Nuggets allow the 24th or the 24th in terms of allowing assists. So they're not very good at defending playmaking. And I think that's going to be a huge problem when you come up against Chris Paul, and even Devin Booker is a decent playmaker as well. So I think the Nuggets just don't have the ability to they don't have the athletic ability, I think, to defend like quick passing movements very well and stuff like that. So overall, I think that the Suns are going to have a good time on offense.
Yeah, that's just a very interesting take, but like that's versus the entire league, where their playmaker is their point guard. But what if you're facing a team where the playmaker is the center? I don't know how the Suns will be able to handle that. I think both teams will do quite well in the playmaking department, and I think that Jokic and Michael Porter Jr. and even playmakers like Facundo Campazzo and even having good pieces like Aaron Gordon, Paul Millsap will carry the Nuggets to quite a few wins. But I think the leadership of Chris Paul, along with the renewed superstardom of Devin Booker and the defense of DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, and several others, will ultimately give the Suns a win on their home court in Game 7 in Phoenix. And the Suns will be moving on to the conference finals, in my opinion.
I also agree that the Suns are moving on to the conference finals. I have them winning in 6 games. And I think, like I said in my take, the Nuggets have a fractured offense with many key players out. So Michael Porter Jr. will have to step it up. But that being said, I think there's still a pretty big offensive gap. Even against the Blazers, who are one of the worst defenses in the league, the Nuggets were doing decently offensively, but they weren't doing well enough to consistently torch the Blazers relative to what the Blazers were scoring. They were all decently close games. And I think the Suns are better offensively and defensively than the Blazers. So the fact that the Nuggets were playing so closely against the Blazers, I think would be a bad sign for their matchup against the Suns. So I think the Suns will have the edge in this series.
I agree with both of you. I have the Suns winning in 6 games, but honestly, I don't think it's out of the question that they win in 4 or 5, because when you look at this year and last year, they've just been historically good at shocking the whole league. Like last year in the bubble, they won 8-0 in like the final regular season games, and then they shocked the Lakers. So I think they could just pop off and win in 5 games maybe with their home game being Game 5. But that wraps it up for the third series preview for the conference semifinals. The last one will be between the Jazz and either the Mavericks or the Clippers yet. As we're recording this, they still haven't played Game 6. This is the Benchwarmers signing out. See ya.